Hello, everyone. This is Bertina with Spiritual Sanctuary Wisdom for the Divine Feminine podcast. Working with Kim at KP Creative Media completely transformed my podcasting journey. Through clarity calls, workshops, mentoring, and ongoing guidance, I've gained consistency, which was my main goal, but I also grew audience. And most importantly, I found a confidence and joy in podcasting. I now feel grounded, clear, and I'm really excited about podcasting. As a college instructor, teaching and speaking come naturally for me, but I needed someone who could help me trust that I was on the right path. And Kim helped me trust my voice and know that I was on the right path. I can't recommend her enough. Thank you.
You have recorded and you've edited and you have published. And then you write two little sentences to describe what it is that your show was about. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, that is not going to help you. It will. It's a start, but let's dive deeper into show notes or show summaries. And let's talk about the benefits of being able to use those in the world to be found, to get your podcast out there in different avenues than just your voice. My name is Kim Parkinson, and this is Podcasting for Your Spiritual Business. I am a podcast certified podcast growth coach, and I help people launch and grow their shows. And one of the things that my company has done for years now, 6 years, is podcast production. And that includes not just the editing and producing of the episodes, but also writing the titles and the show notes for your podcast. So I know a little bit about show notes and the benefits of those. And so on today's podcast basic series, I thought I have to address this because I have seen recently a couple of episodes as I have been scrolling through Apple, looking at different things, different episodes to listen to. I've seen that some people have just not written much. And sometimes they don't even have a call to action, a link or anything. And for the love of all, if you belong on Buzzsprout, please check your show notes because for whatever reason, they put at the very top, text me of their show notes. So I know if you are a Buzzsprouter because yours says text me. There is a feature inside of Buzzsprout where you can just uncheck that. Or alternatively, you can fill that out. But here's the thing, it's not a naked link. And so it's not going to be searchable or it's not going to be clickable on some platforms. Let me get to that. So, first of all, first and foremost, what are show notes and why does this even matter? It is not your transcript. Number one, it's just not. So, if you are like, you know what, I just throw my transcript in there every time and I go with it. And let me tell you, back in 2020, 2021, we did this for one client. She had a 2-minute podcast every week. We did a prayer and we posted her transcripts right inside of her show notes because it was so little, it was so small. And at that time, there was no place inside of the podcast hosting platform to put a transcript. Now, I'm pretty sure every podcast hosting platform allows you to put in a transcript. And if it doesn't, Apple's going to actually create one for you, by the way. So here's the thing. If you have a transcript and you want to put that in, which I highly suggest that you do, throw that in there. Do yourself a favor. I'm really bad at this. I say this myself. Put your name in there, not just say speaker. I'm really bad at this myself. I allow it to do the transcript and then I cut and paste and then I move on. But in clients, I always try to make sure that theirs says their name. If you ever find one of mine or anyone that you've seen, Yeah, just let me know and I'll fix it. But yes, the transcript goes in its own special spot. So that is not what a show note is. A show note is basically a summary of what it is that you talked about. It's a written companion of your episode. Think of this as a small little, maybe advertisement of what it is that you talked about within that episode. Listeners can read these and they can then maybe determine whether or not they want to continue on. Now, this show notes, show summaries, I'm not sure if there is a delineation between show notes and show summaries. I kind of use them interchangeably. You will probably find somebody out there that says, no, show notes are this and show summary is this. When I mean show summary, I am actually talking about the episode of a show for show notes, show summary. I'm not talking about the podcast description. That is something totally different. We've talked about that before. I'm talking about the individual episodes, show notes, show summary. So these show notes, these show summaries, they're actually not searchable within podcast apps. So they're not searchable for Apple, Spotify, Overcast, Podcast Addict, any of those. You're not going to be able to type in a keyword and it's going to look through your show summary, show notes for that keyword. That's why it's so important that you put the keywords in your title and in your description and in your your actual podcast name itself, because those show notes, show summary are not searchable in a podcast app. Now, they are searchable if you have done a couple of different things. They're searchable through Google or any other platforms inside of your website, or if your hosting platform has a podcast website for your show. And I know Captivate does this, Buzzsprout does this. I think Libsyn, Libsyn does this. Almost all of them, I believe, do this. Those are actually searchable through Google and through Bing and all of that. So as long as you have said, yes, I would love to have a website for my podcast, then yes, they will be searchable within your hosting platform on the web. And then if you have them on your own website, they will be searchable on your website. Now, something like Captivate actually has a plugin for WordPress, super, super sweet. So you never have to do anything. It just automatically gets pushed over. If yours doesn't automatically get pushed over, I do highly suggest maybe you create a blog post every week for them. I know this is a lot of work or a lot of additional work, but it could be worth it in the end because of the searchability factor of this. And that's going to not just play out with Google and Bing and all of those other places, Safari, but this is also going to be searchable with AI. Now, podcast audio is not searchable. So anything that you say is not going to be searchable. They don't get indexed by Google, they don't get indexed by any of those. It's just not there yet where what you say is going to be searchable. Your show notes are what is searchable, and that is it's a text footprint that you are putting out there into the world. Every episode has that opportunity to be something bigger that revolves around your ideal client or your ideal listener. And you want to make sure that you think of each of those episodes as like a mini blog post or a mini searchable, findable, indexable web page for you and your show. If they're one on your website or two on your hosting platform's website and they're searchable. Now, again, when I say your website, if you're using Substack as your website, that could be it. If you're using something else as your website, Wix or whatever it is on your website, all of that, as long as your show notes have their own page, have their own, well, the episode and your show notes have their own page. Usually the transcript's on there too, which again, just more keywords added to this, right? So now, AI tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude and all those other ones there that are out there, they do crawl public web pages. And this is going to include your host's page and your website page. So you definitely want to make sure that these are on here. And this is one of the reasons I'm kind of building up to one of the reasons why you really need to have show notes because two sentences are not really very searchable, right? They don't really give you a full picture here. So when AI is searching for your podcast information. This is now called generative engine optimization. And I did have to look that word up. And if you saw me looking down, that is correct because I was like, what is that word? Generative engine optimization. It's writing context that AI search tools can find and cite, not just for Google. That's what the definition there is. And yes, I am reading it from my page here. So what does this mean practically? It answers questions directly and specifically. AI loves clear, structured answers. So if you have anything in particular that you are talking about in your show, maybe you should make sure that there is a question and answer. So if you are talking about what are podcast show notes are, you could actually add something more into that for your show notes here. You want to make sure that it's specific. And here's the other thing, keyword rich. This is always, 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 I'm always going to bring this back to keywords, right? Inside of your first paragraph, I really want you to start that very first sentence within that paragraph with a strong opening keywords. Lots of keywords within that. Okay, if you start with a or the or whatever, sometimes that happens, sometimes that's okay. Here's the other thing. I personally dislike in this episode, but that doesn't mean that you can't put it in there. It just means that there could be other ways because so many people actually already write that. So could you add in 3 to 5 really strong, like, keywords instead of in this episode or something like that, right? You wanna really start that off with a bang, like, make sure that you write, "Show notes are specific," or something like that. How I usually do my show notes within my clients and my own is I usually have like a little hook at the very beginning. So some type of a question or some type of a keyword rich, like bam, like that's the first thing. Then I have another paragraph that also has some keywords and it kind of goes into a little bit more of what we're talking about. And then I end it with maybe some type of a next step type thing. Now, when you do that, you can also do additional pieces that are going to help not only your podcast SEO on your website and on those hosting platforms, but maybe within your Substack or within, wherever you are. And here's the other thing. If you train your AI or whatever tool you're using to help you with your show notes, even if it's just your brain, you can also pull out 3 to 5 like key takeaways, and those could be quote graphics, audiograms, reels. They could be blog posts on their own. Maybe they are something that you talk about in your newsletter. Maybe it's a couple of Pinterest pins. Maybe it's a TikTok that you want to record. Maybe it is information for a new podcast, or maybe it's a topic that you can talk about within a guest blog post or a guest podcast or a guest newsletter, any of those things, right? So look at, I got 9 of them here. I'm sure there's 10. I'm sure there's more, but there's lots of opportunities if you can pull out 3 to 5 key takeaways of each episode. Now, I don't do that within everybody's. I do that for some of my corporate clients because they use the show notes as a blog post directly. So we make sure that they have a lot of keywords within that, and then we have full on sentences of their key takeaways. Could I do this for my other clients? Absolutely. But my other clients don't use these directly as blog posts. So again, it's kind of how you use it and how much you want to use it, right? So this is also dependent on how much energy and effort you want to put into this, right? So if this is a lot, then just leave the show notes as a hook, a paragraph about what's going on, another paragraph to wrap it up, and then one link to end it all. Now, I say that one link should be a CTA. Usually it's to your newsletter. Usually it could be to maybe your Substack community, or it could be to your Facebook page, your Instagram. Your Facebook, your Instagram are probably not what's the word here I'm thinking of, are probably not as quantifiable as to your newsletter or maybe to your Substack, because to your newsletter or to your Substack, what's going to happen is they are then going to hopefully click on the link and you're going to be able to see that they actually joined. And that is going to just increase those numbers. And then you can nurture them from there, right? Whereas if they just join you from Instagram or follow you on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or any of those, yes, if you are active on those, it could be beneficial. But if you're not active, or perhaps, people just find you randomly, you don't know if they came direct from the podcast. So there's always like a plus and minuses here for that. Now, if you have a guest on your podcast, what happens? What do you do? Well, you're going to probably put a little bit more information about the guest in there. Again, this is going to be searchable if you put it onto your blog or onto your host's own website page for your website. And then that search is going to be allowed. That's going to be found, right? And then you can put a little bit of a bio about your guest if you want, or you can at least put a link to their blog or their podcast or their website or their social, whatever their CTA is, what it is that they talked about. Sometimes within an episode, what I will do is I will ask my guest, what is the number one place that people should go to after the episode is done? And usually, if they have a podcast, that's what episode should they start on? And if they don't have a podcast, then it's where should they go? And that is the link that I add to my show notes. Here's the other thing in regards to links. I don't want you to just put the words there of like, sign up for my newsletter and then hyperlink that. They need to be what I call naked links. And that naked link starts with HTTPS colon backslash backslash and then www or whatever it might be after that. And the reason being is that not all hosting platforms will actually allow a hyperlink to continue to be hyperlinked. And this is even true. You can actually look this up right now. If you are on Apple on your phone, you'll see that you can click on any link. It'll be hyperlinked and you'll be like, "No, I can click on it. It's fine. I can absolutely find that." Go to Apple on your PC and they're no longer hyperlinked. It's just click here. And there is no click. There is nothing. So it's always best to leave the naked link all the way through. You want to make sure that that naked link is the entire link, even if it's got some really ugly numbers or whatever. I mean, if you can make it a pretty link, great. But if you can't, just whatever it is, make sure it's there. People can then copy and paste that if they need to, and especially easy if they're on their computer, they can copy and paste it. It is a little bit of a nudge, but some distribution platforms do not allow hyperlinks and don't allow links at all. And if your listener is listening there, then you don't want to lose that. So, naked links, it is. Okay, back to these show notes. So, you've done your show notes and you're going to put those up. Here's the other thing, if your episode is really long, and I'm talking maybe an hour, some people have more than an hour episodes. Not my fave, but some people do. Here's the other thing, add timestamps. Add those timestamps and tell people where they can listen to certain things. Now, Apple does a really good job right now of adding in the timestamps. If you are on Captivate, I know that you can add timestamps within there. I do think Buzzsprout allows them to. I haven't tried in Libsyn, so maybe they do as well. But they will allow timestamps and you can actually put them in for people. And so then they are going to be kind of like clickable within that area. But if you don't put the timestamps in, clickable within the area, if the distribution platform allows it to be clickable. If it doesn't allow it to be clickable, this is why adding in the little at 5 minutes and 36 seconds, I talked about blah, blah, blah. You want that to be in there because then people can scroll to 5 minutes and 36 seconds. There is some talk, and this has happened in the past where people have said, you know, I don't like to add timestamps because then people don't listen to the whole episode. But here's the thing. You know what? If they listen to that time-stamped piece and you had valuable information, they'll be back. They'll want to know more. So it's not going to be a lose for you on this. It's going to only be a win because one, they've listened. And as we have found out more recently, a listen right now is 30 seconds. So if what you have to say is longer than 30 seconds, then you're probably pretty good here. So 30 seconds, although some platforms I think now just say a second, but whatever. We'll go with the 30 seconds because I feel like that's at least something, right? And so what we want is for them to listen to 30 seconds of your content, of what it is that you have. And then they'll be back. So timestamp if you have a lengthy conversation with someone, or timestamp if you have something that's like, I don't know, super important, right? Something that you really feel like that is something that people should be following or something people should be listening to. This is especially important, I think, with guest interviews, because sometimes there was a part of a guest interview that was like really poignant, really important that people want to be like, I just want to get to that meat of that information. I don't want to hear her talk about the hellos and all that. So timestamps. I could probably talk about timestamps all day long, right? So let's just let's just talk timestamps if you have a long or important conversation. Okay. Now, keywords in your show notes. You want to write this for the listener. You don't really want to write it for the AI or the searchable Google, Bing, Safaris of the world. You really want this at least to sound like something that your listener is going to read. You don't want it to sound very robotic or anything like that. Talk as you normally would, because that's going to sound a lot better. And that's going to be something that is going to entice those people to look for. Yes, you need to have those keywords in so that it's searchable, but at the same time, remember, this is really for the listener to be like, I don't know, do I want to listen to this? Do I want to continue on? And so they're looking at it and they're like, yeah, I think I'm going to, and they click the play button and they download it. So you want to make sure that you're writing for the human first and the bots second. All right. So, what kind of tools can help you? So, of course, if you're using Descript, you can always go ahead and you can download the transcript. You can run that transcript through any of your AI platforms that you might have and ask for, some type of a formula or whatnot to get your show notes out there. Now, I do have a formula and I do offer it to my Podcast Growth Accelerator members. So, if you are at all interested in joining PGA, that is the Podcast Growth Accelerator, I will leave a link down below. Now, as of right now, PGA is only going to be $57 a month, but as of September 1st, this is going up to $97 a month. So, this is the last ditch effort. So, if you're listening to this after September 1st, the price of PGA is $97 a month. Now, let me tell you, that's actually still a really good deal because you get not only some information from me every month and a masterclass and sometimes templates and sometimes all sorts of good stuff, but you also get office hours with me. So I have office hours every Monday from 3 to 3:30 Eastern time, and you can come in and talk about anything that you might have a question about your podcast for. So it is a good deal. I will leave that down below, and you can go ahead and join that. And that is also I will also, once you join, just mention that you heard this episode, and I'll send you over my framework for podcast show notes so you can have those. All right. Now, again, AI will definitely help you. Cast Magic. I think I did an entire episode. I think that was 079 on Cast Magic. I absolutely love Cast Magic. They will do that for you as well. Descript does do it. So if you were watching the Descript and you're like, hey, it says show summary right here. It does, but it needs some work still. It does use Claude. So you might be able to massage it if you want to try to get that to be a little bit better. But again, that actually might be a really good place to get your timestamps or maybe some of the other pieces. But you want to always, always, always read them over because again, AI isn't always perfect, right? And you want to put a little bit of yourself in there and you want to make sure that they make sense for your listener and that maybe there is just something in it that was wrong. Like I've had that happen before where I've actually loaded up show notes that AI has written and it had the entire guest's name completely spelled incorrectly. Yep. How embarrassing. So make sure that you always edit whatever it spits out, whatever those show notes that spit out. I will say out of all of them right now, I'm still loving Cast Magic. I really feel like Cast Magic does an exceptional job at what I want, and I can actually put in there the formula that I want to use. Yes, I can in Claude and all those too, but they do so many other things. And this one here, Cast Magic, just does it specifically for you and your podcast. So all right. Where do your show notes live? Why it matters. Your hosting platform publishes them and your episode every time you publish. So if you have that set up, your show notes are automatically going to be there and they will be searchable on the web. Again, making sure that you have those keywords so that it's searchable and findable and all of those things. If you have a website, you can repost all of your show notes there and you can actually embed your episode right there. You can listen right there on your website if you want. This is actually my preferred way. I always try to send people to my website if I can. It's kpcreativemediacom/podcast. And you're listening already. So, maybe you're already there, or maybe you listen on a podcast distribution platform. But that's where I like to send people if they are going to be listening to my podcast. And the reason being is that then they can peruse around and search and see other things that I do. So I always like to say, bring it to your website if you can. And again, if you are using Captivate and WordPress, add in that plugin. It's great. Does everything for you already. You don't have to do anything. If you don't, then go ahead and upload that to your website so that you have a searchable means there. And then, if you're using Substack, go ahead and upload there if you want. Or if you're using Beehive, that's another one. If you want to you choose that, go right ahead and make sure that your show notes are up there so that they're searchable and findable. And again, don't forget if you're using those three key takeaways or 3 to 5 key takeaways, use those for other pieces of content as well. You've already created that podcast. You've already spoken all those words. Now make your words matter, count, and do something good in the world. Make it findable for people or searchable for people to find you because that is where all your magic comes together. And then you're calling in clients with the power of your voice. And who doesn't want that? So, all right. This has been an episode about show notes and the importance of them. So please, if you are writing show notes and they only have 2 sentences, it's not too late. You can actually go back and you can fix them. You can go back and fix them anytime. Don't do it all at once. Don't make it really hard for yourself. One at a time. Make it just easy. Start with the today's, whatever you did today, and then go from there and then go backwards if you need to. And again, you can always change those as well. They are not going to be, something that you can't. And by the way, in the future, it could be that show notes are even more valuable. So always keep that in mind because AI and the search engines and everything else are changing all the time. And so you never know when the tides will turn and on those distribution platforms, show notes will matter. So keep up with it now and get ahead of the curve for whatever comes down the pike in the future. All right. This has been another episode of Podcast Basics. I hope you've learned a few things about show notes and has inspired you to update or change or take another look at your show notes. So until next time, where your voice flows, your business grows. My name's Kim Parkinson, and this is Podcasting for Your Spiritual Business. See you next time.